So I'm getting ready to go out for a game tomorrow with the team that I play with and a couple of friends. And one of my friends came over to check out this vector that he's going to be using because I told him I was looking to sell it and he is interested in buying it. So he picks it up, I throw a battery in it, and he starts messing with it, shooting some BBs. And I pulled out my chrono to check it to make sure that it was within legal FPS limits. I almost exclusively use 3.0s, so I want to say outdoor ranges, that's probably about 355 to 360 FPS, where it's still legal to use with 3.0s, where it turns out to be around 400 FPS on 2.0s. And when I ran this through the chrono, it was shooting about 385 to 390 FPS. I looked up the conversion chart online, and that turned out to be about 465 FPS, give or take, with 2.0s. So naturally, I have to reduce that power output that this has, which can be done in one of two ways. Realistically, I can either throw in a lighter spring or a different cylinder that has the cutouts further down the cylinder so that it has less air going through it when the piston cycles. Because it is shooting so hard, I'm actually going to be doing both. I'm going to be doing a lighter spring and a different cylinder. So I've had this open for about 20-30 minutes, and I already changed out the cylinder. This is the cylinder that it had in it originally. It's a max 250 to 300 millimeter cylinder, which was working fine before until I did a conversion of gears. I don't know why. I don't understand anything about teching. I'll be the first person to tell you I'm not an expert in teching. A lot of these videos with my guns that I've posted is more of lessons learned that could potentially help other players and other people who are doing their own work down the line than it is a how-to, because again, I'm not an expert tech. I've never trained with any master techs. I've never gone to any teching schools. I rarely ever even watch teching videos on YouTube. I just sort of take things apart and figure it out as I go, which is what's been going on with this one. But it was working fine with this cylinder and the stock gears, and then I put in these new gears, and for whatever reason, now it's shooting hard as hell. So I'm taking out this 250 to 350 millimeter cylinder, and I'm putting in this 200 to 250 millimeter cylinder. Now, I will say, to be fair, the barrel that I'm using is actually a 185 millimeter cylinder. I'm sorry, 185 millimeter barrel. So obviously, these cylinders are designed for barrels that are significantly longer than the one that I'm using. But I did try using a 150 to 200 cylinder, and it did not work. It was shooting like 100 FPS, 150 FPS. So if somebody knows why it does that, let me know. I would actually love to know myself. But that's why I went up to the 200 and 250. Or the 300, 350. Actually, 250, 300. Now I'm going down to the 200, 250. So a couple of things, since I already have this open, a couple of things that I learned while I was trying to figure out how to get this thing to perform the way I wanted it to was, first of all, since I'm changing out the gears, obviously anyone that has worked on Krytac knows that Krytac gears are not spec'd the same as standard gears, and honestly I don't really know how to show it, but something about standard gears versus Krytac gears makes it so that standard gears are really tight in the box, in the gearbox, once they've been installed, and they don't spin properly, and it can cause lockups, malfunctions, misfeeds, whatever. So that's definitely something that a player should keep in mind when they're looking at swapping out gears is that you're either going to have to get other Krytac gears, and I doubt that they make high-speed gears. You're going to have to stick with the stock gears, or you're going to have to do some modifications in your gearbox to get everything to fit properly. As far as the modifications I did in order to get these gears, which right now it has 12 to 1s, in order to get these gears to fit in, I left the right side of the gearbox. So I left the right side of the gearbox pretty much untouched. But on the left side of the gearbox, you can see here, and actually let me try to pop these out. So you can see here, I dremeled out around where the bearings are inserted. When you get this, specifically for the Alpine White, because the special edition, the Alpine White Vector is the one that I have specifically. It comes with little like grooves around these. They're not very deep, but there are little grooves there, so I just used those grooves and followed those to cut down into the gearbox so that the bearings could sit a little more flush with the body. I didn't go too far down because I didn't want to mess it up too badly, but I went far down enough that the bearings are they're not exactly flush, but they're pretty flush to the body. Alright, so that was the first modification I made to the gearbox. And then the second modification I made was right here. You can see that I dremeled out a piece here. And the reason I did that was because when this was in there and it was closed up, and you'd see this yourself if you try doing this, right here, you can see as it turns, right here where these teeth go over that part that was dremeled out, that would make contact and it would actually create friction. And actually I might have to dremel that out a little bit more. I'll see when I close it up. Never mind, it's good. But I don't know if you can see it here. Anyways, right there, if you don't dremel that down, this gear, the sector gear, will make contact with this bit that sticks out here, which will cause friction, and it'll reduce the rotational motion, the rotational inertia that the gear will have, which will slow down your rate of fire and presumably affect your FPS as well. So that part definitely needs to get shaved down if you want to throw in non-Krytac gears, right? I am using an SHS light and piston, 15 teeth, second to last removed, max piston head, max nozzle, 21.25 millimeter, and the max 200 to 250 cylinder. Obviously the cylinder head is proprietary, so I can't really change that one out. But it has a pretty decent air seal anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. It actually has really good air seal, so I'm not worried about swapping it out. As you can see there, you know, it's got really good air seal, so I'm not worried about changing that part at all. It's good. I'm gonna leave it alone as is. Now you can see here on my piston, on the pickup tooth here, that some of the black coating has worn off, and that is because of the sector gear as well. So there's a lot of parts in here that are super tight, right? That's my 12 to 1s. So here I have a 13 to 1 that I brought out here to showcase what I was talking about here. So as this rotates, you can see here, and the gearbox isn't closed, so you can't really get a real good view of it, but I hope you can see here that the sector gear is making contact with the piston tooth right there, right? So that rubs there, again causing friction and slowing down the motion of the gear. This is not AOE corrected, not even remotely close. I don't know how to do AOE correction, so I'll be honest, this is not AOE corrected even with the gears that I am using. If someone wants to teach me how to do that, I'd be more than happy to learn, but as of right now I don't know how to do it. But anyways, the important thing is, and you can see here, because this gear actually used to be in this gearbox, and you can see the same discoloration right here on the edge of the gear, right? And again, like I said, that is because as this is spinning, it makes contact with the pickup tooth of the gear, and obviously it can still move freely right now, but when the other half of the gearbox is on here, it does create friction and it makes it harder to pull this back, and it's all kinds of issues. It took me a while to figure that one out. So what I did when I picked up my set of 12-to-1s, actually, I shaved down this side of the gear. I don't know if that will cause any issues for the gear. I really hope it doesn't. I don't really use this gun, so I don't know how it'll affect it, but hopefully I didn't end up ruining anything. But you can see now here that this one has more than enough clearance to spin freely. It's not a perfect round curve because I hand dremeled it myself, but you can see now there's plenty of clearance. It's not making contact, and it'll still pick up the way it has to. So I am really hoping that I didn't end up ruining anything there. I guess I'll find out tomorrow after my friend uses it to play. But that was another thing to keep in mind. This gear, if you don't shave down the back end of it where it doesn't have teeth, it's gonna make contact with this. It's gonna slow down the cycling. It could give you some issues that you may not want to deal with. So something to keep in mind. I am running a ZCI high torque motor, 22 TPA. I like it. I know it's not the best motor on the market, but at $20, $30 or whatever it costs to pick one up, it's a pretty good motor. I have a friend who has a Vector, and his has an ASG Boost 30K. I did have a little bit of a problem with that one as well. Apparently ASG makes their cans a little fatter than most manufacturers, so I actually had to take the sticker off because it has the ASG Boost sticker on the can. I had to take the sticker off, and you're gonna have to leave the gearbox a little bit loose in order to insert it before closing it up all the way. Otherwise you're gonna have a hell of a time getting the can in and pulling it out. And again, if you need to reopen your gearbox, you're gonna have to loosen up all of the screws so that the motor will come out easily. Otherwise you're gonna need some pliers, and you can end up damaging this end cap, and it's just a whole bunch of other issues. So a couple things to keep in mind motor wise. What was the other thing? I have heard that Krytac has weird hop units. So a lot of people in their M4s and V2 builds like to run max hop ups, myself included. Every build that I have that is an M4 that will take it has a max hop up in it. These Vector gearboxes cannot take a max hop up. It will not fit. I tried it out. I'm really happy that I actually tried it before I picked up the hop, because I would have been real upset to find out afterwards that I spent $60 on a part that I can't use, especially since I didn't have another gun I could throw it into. Luckily for me, Prometheus makes these really nice one-piece aluminum hops. They don't have the notches in the hops, so it's really easy to it's really nice adjustments that you can make. You know, you're not sort of stuck into making finite adjustments at a time. You can actually make very, very fine adjustments with this hop, which is why I like it. But this is the Prometheus wide use hop up Krytac edition. If you look on Evike and you find them, some of the comments at the bottom there say that these won't fit in a Krytac. Clearly they're not right, because I've been using this, or I've had this in here for a while. and it fits fantastically. So Prometheus wide use, one piece, aluminum, Krytac spec. They also make one of these for G&Gs if you have a G&G and you want a different hop up. Same thing, Prometheus wide use hop, G&G spec. So then the last thing that I wanted to show was for the battery space. I hear a lot of people talking about how they can't use, or they don't like these because it has limited battery space, which is actually a very fair point. Definitely wouldn't recommend this if you want to use a ginormous battery that will last you 5 days. But you can still find some decent batteries that'll get you through a day of gameplay. And the ones that I have found are these ASG 1450 milliamp hours. It's 30C, so it has really good discharge rate. And it fits perfectly. This is the largest battery that I've been able to find that fits in this AEG. So just show you that real quick here. Put that in there. And the cool thing about these, if you have a Krytac but don't have the extended battery cap, is that they should fit without the need of the extended battery cap. Just tuck that in there. And you can see there that even if I didn't have the extended battery cap, all the wires fit perfectly. The battery is the perfect size for this gun. I do have the extended battery cap. I don't know where I left the other one, but I do have it. I do have this one. So obviously I use it. And it's just nice to have a little bit of extra room for the wires here. But it will 100% fit without the extended battery cap. So I have a friend who does his own work as well, and he recommended Kypom, spelled K-Y-P-O-M batteries. They also have a similarly sized 1450 milliamp hour battery. He recommends using those. I don't have any myself, but I do know another Vector user that does have them, and he absolutely loves them. So if you can't find these ASG 1450 milliamp hour batteries, a Kypom 1450 milliamp hour will work just as well with zero problems. And those are available on Facebook. Those are available on eBay, so you can find them there if you want to buy some of those. My friend, who actually I think has his own channel. I know he does tech work himself. He's actually super knowledgeable when it comes to teching. Anytime I have a question myself, I always bring it up to him, just because he's been teching longer, he's been playing longer, and he's been teching longer, and he's more knowledgeable and understands a lot more about the teching process than I do. But his channel is Midwest Tech, I believe. I will put a link to his stuff in the description of this video if you are interested in getting any work done on your gun, but you're not comfortable doing it yourself, or if you just want to check out whatever his stuff is. Feel free to take a look at his page. Maybe he might have a link to his Instagram page, where you can probably get a hold of him even better, or get a hold of him via Instagram much easier than you could through YouTube. But yeah, Midwest Tech, cool dude. I play with him when I get a chance. Any airsoft question, teching question that I have, he's the first person I go to, and I've actually learned quite a bit from him. So super cool dude, very knowledgeable. Oh, and this little sector delay chip here, I pulled this off of my KWA T10 stock gear. I had a plastic sector delay chip floating around somewhere, but I couldn't find it, so I just went with that aluminum one, or this copper one that I have here. If you look at this gear here, it already has the extended bit, so I figured if that's there on a stock gear, it probably need it on a speed gear, and I'm just playing it safe by putting it on there. But yeah, you can't buy these as far as I know. I pulled this off of a KWA T10 gear. Any regular sector delay chip that you can find for sale should be able to net you the same result there. So that's pretty much all I've got as far as working with the Vector and getting it to perform the way you want it to. Hopefully this gets down to the range that I need it to be at, because it's gonna suck real bad if I can't take this for my friend to play with tomorrow. Alright, so the gun is put back together now, with the exception of this front piece that I will end up putting on it here shortly. But I did chrono it, and here is what I am getting for the Vector. It's got a 5 FPS range from 315 to 320 roughly, with 3 O's, which again, like I mentioned, is pretty much exclusively what I use for all of my builds. I'm not entirely sure how that translates to 2 O's, but I do know for a fact that this is within outdoor field limit, so goal accomplished. The gun is where I want it to be, and it is shooting fantastically